It is the year 73 BCE. The late summer sun hangs low over the Campanian plain, turning the dust into a haze of gold. The heat shimmers above the hard-packed earth. A single Roman century, 80 men in iron helmets, segmented armor glinting in the light, stands in a line so straight it might have been carved in stone. The points of their pila catch the glow like a warning. Ahead of them sprawls a chaotic sea of rebels, Thracians with long spears, Gauls painted for war, runaway slaves armed with whatever they could seize. Their formation is loose, their shouts wild and taunting. Some stamp their feet, others bang weapons on shields, trying to break the Romans' composure. But the legionaries do not answer, they do not jeer, their eyes are forward, their shields locked. These are men shaped by something far greater than courage, a system refined over centuries, a weapon as much in the mind as in the hand. From the wind-lashed cliffs of Britannia to the burning sands of Africa, from the misty forests of Germania to the mountains of Armenia, Rome's legions carved an empire into the world's map. This was no accident, no stroke of fortune. It was the deliberate work of generations, the relentless drilling of soldiers, the genius of commanders, and an unshakable belief that the Republic, and later the Empire, was destined to rule. The Roman military machine was not merely an army. It was an idea, an organism that lived and breathed discipline. Its heartbeat was the tramp of hobnailed sandals, its lifeblood, the chain of command that connected the lowest recruit to the might of the Senate and people of Rome. Our story begins in the years when the Republic had already mastered the art of war, yet still faced rivals strong enough to test it. From the 3rd century BCE to the 2nd century CE, Rome transformed the crude militias of its early days into a professional war engine whose precision and adaptability still inspire modern generals. We will uncover its inner workings, the brutal training that turned farmers into warriors, the engineering feats that built roads faster than enemies could destroy them, the tactical innovations that crushed armies many times Rome's size. Yet beneath this discipline lay dangerous truths. The same military machine that defended Rome could be turned inward. It could be wielded by ambitious men-generals whose loyalty shifted from the Senate to themselves. The legions could crown emperors or tear them down. We will step into the marble halls of the Senate, where words could be as deadly as swords. We will ride beside commanders who gambled entire legions on a single bold maneuver. We will watch alliances form and shatter, and see how personal ambition could alter the fate of continent. By the end, you will understand that Rome's secret weapon was never just its weapons. It was the unity of discipline, the flexibility of command, and the sheer willpower of its people, soldiers who could suffer defeat, bury their dead, and still return to the field stronger than before. And you may find yourself asking the question every commander must face. If you had been in their sandals, would you have stood or would you have broken? Why did the sight of a Roman standard, the golden eagle of the legion, send shivers down the spines of enemies from the moors of Britannia to the deserts of Syria? The answer does not lie only in the clash of battle, but in the long months and years before a soldier ever faced an enemy. The legion was founded on a principle the Romans called the triplex aces, 3 battle lines, each with a defined role. In the early Republic, the hastati formed the first line, young men, often in their late teens or early 20s, eager for glory but untested. They carried the pilum, a heavy javelin, and the gladius, a short stabbing sword meant for close combat. Behind them stood the principes, men in their prime, hardened by years of campaigning. And finally, in the third line, were the triarii, veterans with decades of service, their very presence a steadying influence on the younger ranks. The saying, "It has come to the triarii," became a Roman proverb, meaning the situation was desperate enough to call in the last reserve. By the late 2nd century BCE, Gaius Marius reformed the legion into a more flexible structure. 10 cohorts per legion, each cohort an independent fighting unit of about 480 men. This allowed Rome to fight in varied terrain, adapting to mountains, forests, and deserts with the same efficiency. A legion numbered around 5,000 men at full strength, supported by cavalry and auxiliary troops. Each soldier bore roughly 80 pounds of equipment, iron helmet, body armor, rectangular shield, 2-pilar, the gladius, rations for days, a cloak, and tools for building camps. To carry this load, the soldier's body was conditioned by relentless marches 20 miles in a day, in full kit, often followed by the digging and construction of a fortified camp. Training was brutal by design. Wooden swords were twice the weight of the real gladius, so that the true weapon would feel like an extension of the arm. Soldiers drilled thrusts and shield bashes until their muscles acted without thought. The pilum was thrown again and again until the arc and impact were perfect. And discipline was not negotiable. A unit that failed could face decimation, where every 10th man was executed by his comrades to restore fear and obedience. Engineers were the legion's unsung heroes. A marching army could, in a single night, construct a square fort with walls, ditches, and watchtowers, a miniature city ready to repel attack. Roads were built with mathematical precision, straight as an arrow, cutting through mountains and marshland alike. Bridges and siege engines were assembled on the spot, often faster than defenders could react. Roman weapons were crafted for strategy as much as killing power. The pilum's long iron shank bent after impact, making it useless to throw back. The gladius, designed for stabbing, could be used in the tight press of shield wall fighting where swinging a longer sword was impossible. Yet perhaps the most fearsome weapon was psychological. The Romans often advanced in total silence, the only sound the synchronized stamp of thousands of boots and the metallic rattle of armor. This eerie calm could unnerve even the bravest enemy. Then, at the moment of impact, they would unleash a unified roar that seemed to shake the earth. Rome's military machine was more than men and steel. It was an institution that combined flexibility, engineering, discipline, and intimidation into one package. And it worked, century after century, against enemies who often outnumbered them. If you stood shoulder to shoulder in that shield wall, 80 pounds on your back, your vision filled with enemy faces rushing toward you, could you hold your place without flinching? It is the summer of 216 BCE, deep in the Second Punic War. The fields near the small town of Cannae are already hot before the sun has climbed high, the air heavy with the scent of ripening grain. Across the plain, two armies face each other, one of them, the largest Rome has ever assembled, 80,000 strong. The Roman command is divided between two consuls, Lucius Aemilius Paulus, a man of caution and experience, and Gaius Terentius Varro, bold and hungry for a decisive victory. On this day, the command falls to Varro, and his choice will be one of the most consequential in Roman history. Facing them is Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian commander who has already humiliated Rome at Trebia and Lake Trasimene. His army is smaller, numbering around 50,000, but it is a blend of deadly skill. Iberian swordsmen with curved falcata blades, fierce Gallic warriors towering over their foes, African spearmen drilled to perfection, and his ace, the Numidian cavalry, whose speed and maneuverability are unmatched in the ancient world. Hannibal arranges his forces in a shallow crescent. His center is intentionally weaker, composed of Gauls and Iberians who will give ground under Roman pressure. On either side, his African infantry waits, disciplined and fresh. The cavalry is massed on the flanks, heavy on the left, light and fast on the right. When the battle begins, the Roman legions surge forward in dense formation, determined to smash through the Carthaginian center. Step by step, they push Hannibal's front line back. The dust thickens, the sun climbs, and the Romans believe victory is within their grasp. But this is exactly what Hannibal has prepared for. As the center yields, the Roman advance becomes a funnel, their tightly packed formations pressing deeper into the trap. On the flanks, Hannibal's African infantry holds firm, pivoting inward. The Carthaginian heavy cavalry smashes the Roman horse on the left flank, scattering them in minutes. Freed from pursuit, they circle behind the Roman infantry. At the same moment, the Numidian cavalry on the right sweeps across to join the encirclement. The crescent closes into a ring. The Romans are surrounded on all sides. In the crush of men and shields, there is no room to swing a sword, no space to maneuver. The heat is suffocating, the screams constant. For hours, the killing goes on, the Carthaginians methodically cutting down their trapped foes. By sunset, 50,000 Romans lie dead. Consul Paulus, wounded, refuses to leave the field, choosing death with his men. It is the single greatest disaster in Rome's military history, yet it does not break them. Within weeks, the Senate rallies. They refuse all offers of peace from Hannibal. Instead, they raise new legions, change their tactics, and avoid pitched battles against the Carthaginian genius, wearing him down over years. Eventually, they will defeat him at Zama. But the lessons of Cannae about overconfidence, about the dangers of rigid tactics, will echo in Roman strategy for generations. This was not Rome's death, it was the furnace in which its steel was tempered. Behind every victory on the battlefield, another war was being fought in the marble halls of the Roman Senate. Here, politics could decide a general's fate before a single sword was drawn. In the late 2nd century BCE, Gaius Marius rose to prominence through both skill and ambition. His military reforms opened legionary service to the capit censi, the landless poor who previously had no place in the army. This change gave Rome a larger pool of recruits, but it also shifted soldiers' loyalty away from the state and toward their generals, who now provided their pay, their plunder, and even their retirement land. Marius's rivalry with Lucius Cornelius Sulla would plunge Rome into civil war. Sulla, a patrician by birth but a cunning commander, marched his army on Rome itself, the first time in history a Roman general had done so. The taboo was broken and the precedent set. The legions could be used against Rome as easily as for it. A generation later, Julius Caesar would master this game of politics and war. Through strategic marriages, political alliances, and calculated acts of generosity, he secured the command of Gaul. For nearly a decade, he waged war there, expanding Rome's borders to the English Channel, subduing countless tribes, and sending back enormous wealth. His growing fame unsettled the Senate. In 49 BCE, they ordered him to return to Rome without his army. Caesar faced a choice: obey and risk political ruin, or defy the order and seize power by force. His decision is immortalized in the phrase, "crossing the Rubicon." With his army at his back, he marched into Italy, igniting another civil war. These struggles reveal a dangerous truth. In Rome, military success was the surest path to political dominance, but political survival often required risking everything on the battlefield. A single defeat could mean exile, disgrace, or execution. A victory could make you dictator. Life in the legions was a constant cycle of discipline, labor, and survival. A soldier's day began before dawn, when the trumpet's call roused the camp. Breakfast was simple: a ration of bread or porridge, perhaps some cheese or dried meat, and watered wine or vinegar. Training was daily, even on campaign. Soldiers drilled with heavy wooden swords and shields, their arms and shoulders aching under the extra weight. They practiced the pilum throw endlessly, aiming for the same accuracy in the chaos of battle. Route marches were frequent, 20 miles in full kit, followed by the construction of the fortified camp. Every night, wherever they stopped, the legions built a marching camp. The ditch was dug first, then an earthen rampart, and finally a wall of sharpened stakes. This ritual, repeated for centuries, meant that no Roman soldier ever slept unprotected. The legions were also engineers. They built roads that connected the empire, aqueducts that carried water for miles, and siege works that could surround a city in days. In peacetime, these projects kept soldiers busy and sharpened their skills. Cultural integration was a quiet but powerful weapon. Rome absorbed the gods, customs, and skills of conquered peoples. Auxiliaries from non-citizen provinces fought alongside the legions and, after years of service, earned citizenship for themselves and their families. This was a bond stronger than fear. It tied distant tribes to Rome's fate. Inside the camp, the rigid social hierarchy of Rome was softened by the realities of war. A patrician and a plebeian might share a trench. Valor in battle could win respect from even the highest-born officer. Archaeology brings this world to life. At Vindolanda in Britannia, Wooden tablets reveal letters from soldiers, requests for warmer clothing, complaints about weather, invitations to celebrations. These fragments show that Roman soldiers were not just warriors, but men with hopes, frustrations, and personal ties. Rome's rule balanced reward and punishment. Loyalty brought advancement and privilege. Rebellion brought swift and total destruction. It was this balance that maintained the empire's stability for centuries until the weight of its own size began to pull it apart. By the middle of the 3rd century CE, the empire's vast military machine began to fracture. This was the crisis of the 3rd century, a 50-year period from 235 to 284 CE, during which the empire nearly collapsed. Invasions came from every side. Germanic tribes surged across the Rhine and Danube, striking deep into Roman territory. In the east, the resurgent Persians captured key fortresses, threatening the grain routes of the east. Rebellions flared in Egypt, Africa, and the Balkans. But the deadliest threat was internal. In just 5 decades, more than 20 emperors would rise and fall, most dying violently. The Praetorian Guard, once the emperor's protectors, became kingmakers, selling the throne to the highest bidder and murdering rulers who failed to meet their demands. The legions themselves split in loyalty. Ambitious generals declared themselves emperors, pulling troops from the borders to fight civil wars while Rome's enemies advanced. Emperor Gallienus fought heroically to defend the empire, but his efforts were undermined by betrayal within his own command. Economic collapse followed. The currency was debased, inflation soared, and trade routes became dangerous. Cities shrank, rural communities withdrew from imperial markets, and tax revenues collapsed. The solution came with Emperor Diocletian, who realized that the empire could no longer be ruled as a single unit. He divided it into eastern and western halves, each with its own emperor and administration. This gave the East, the Byzantine Empire, another 1,000 years of life, but it marked the end of the Rome that had once commanded the known world as one. The fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century CE did not mark the end of Rome's influence, far from it. The legacy of its military system stretched across continents and centuries, shaping the strategies and structures of armies long after the last legion marched. The Eastern Roman Empire, known to history as the Byzantine Empire, preserved much of the old military doctrine. Its armies still valued the discipline and organization of the legions, even if their equipment and tactics evolved. Fortified marching camps, secure supply lines, and the calculated use of reserves, these were all Roman ideas, sharpened for new enemies and terrains. Even those who had once fought against Rome borrowed from its methods. The Ottoman Empire, centuries later, became a master of logistics, moving enormous armies across Europe and Asia with a precision that echoed Roman supply strategies. Medieval European kingdoms modeled their road systems on the Roman network, ensuring troops could be deployed quickly to trouble spots. Modern military theory still draws from Rome's lessons. Officers study Roman campaigns to understand principles that remain timeless. That supply lines are the true lifeblood of an army, that smaller, disciplined units can overcome larger, disorganized forces, that preparation and engineering can be as decisive as battlefield courage. The cohort, a compact, self-sufficient fighting unit, finds its reflection in today's battalions. Archaeology continues to reveal the physical imprint of Rome's military power. Aerial photography and satellite imagery show the perfect rectangular outlines of long-abandoned Roman forts, their geometry still visible beneath fields and forests. In Britain, straight Roman roads remain in use, layered with modern asphalt. In France, the remains of stone bridges still stand where legions once crossed. But Rome's story also serves as a warning. For all its brilliance, the empire succumbed to political corruption, overextension, and the slow erosion of civic loyalty. The very system that had built its strength became a weapon in the hands of rival claimants to the throne.